Welcome to my channel, folks. This is a very brief update to show you guys what I've been working on this week for my foam crafts. As you guys know, those of you that have been following that little series, I started making models, proxy models of vehicles and starships and things like that as proxies for some of our games, just to give a little boost to some of the armies. Well, I started expanding the craft a little bit, and this week I actually built this Lehman Russ tank of the Astra Militarum. And that's 40K, of course, for those of you guys that are familiar with 40K. So I built this Lehman Russ, and it's all out of foam, all handmade. The guns, for example, the cannon, the main cannon, that is a little piece of dowel, and then there's some straw cut up in there to make the muzzle, right? And the base of the gun to give it that detail, so it's not just a solid cylinder. It gives it that little detail to the cannon, and that's basically my goal there. And then for the sponsoon weapons, usually autocannon, I believe they are, I did the same thing, but these were much smaller dowels, thinner dowels, barbecue sticks actually. And then I also use a piece of straw for the muzzles, and then cut a tiny bit of foam for the little sights on the guns, because that brings them a little bit closer to the original thing. And I'm still painting it. I have a very rough camouflage look on it. Still have to work on it a bit. And I also use ink, Citadel ink. Nuln oil is what I use for the weathering. And I like my tanks nice and dirty. I do, for the most part. So I still have to do a little bit of maybe ink with a little bit of sepia ink or brown ink on the bottom of the tank, but not very much. I think it's weathered enough the way it is. Did a few highlights with a lighter beige color before I added the camouflage pattern. And then I'm probably going to go over with the green a little bit, the little green camouflage, the blotches that I made. Probably go over it a little bit with ink just to brighten it up a little bit. And then if any of the ink washed areas are for the details that I score on the model, if any of those areas have faded, I go back and I do it with a little bit of ink to highlight those details. The main thing about this kind of craft is that once I build it, all of the models have very similar technique, right? I usually draw a hull. I look at some pictures, get some ideas, look at some blueprints, draw a hull, and figure out how I'm going to make the different parts, you know, that attach to the vehicle. And then once I do that, I start cutting with my X-Acto knife and start assembling things. And then all the other little pieces come in after, you know, to add the little details. But the primary thing is that I score the details with a pencil. All right, number 2 pencil, and I use 2 different sizes of pencils. If I need really fine detail, I use the real thin pencils and just score it out. And that's the main thing about this project, is that the details, most of the details, are done that way, and it actually speeds up construction of the models quite a bit. So I have aircraft, and I have starships, and I have a bunch of things. But this little Lehman Russ, I've always liked 40K vehicles, and I said, you know, I'm going to try to build a Lehman Russ. And I changed the shape of the turret a little bit, but I'm going to try. There are many versions of the Lehman Russ, various versions in the game, different weapon systems and things like that. So I'm going to try maybe come up with a couple of different Lehman Russ variants, right? Then I'll move on to some of the other factions, maybe do a Space Marine Land Raider or something. That would be cool. So I'm going to keep experimenting with this foam stuff. And for those of you guys that are interested, if you are interested in seeing more 40K scratch builds like that, let me know, and I will post a little more detail on the actual process. But it's all the same process all along. So if you've seen me constructing my starships or one of my other vehicles, you know, it's pretty much the same thing. I just change a little bit of the technique depending on the kind of vehicle I'm making. So we'll see. Space Marines, I don't know. We'll see what happens. I will go back to some historical vehicles. There's a couple of Hind helicopters that I made. And I don't know what I'm going to use the 40K vehicles for. I don't know yet. But they'll be used somewhere in some game. We'll make up something. And the other thing is, you know, I've been looking at some of the battle fleet, Gothic fleets that I have, and I might want to bulk up one or two of my fleets, maybe do a couple of proxies of those ships so I can have something just to play around with on the tabletop if Julie and I decide to play Battlefleet Gothic. Now, all right, folks, this is it. I just wanted to show you the Lehman Russ and tell you that there's many more foam crafts coming. Some 40K builds, some not. So just stick with it. If you like it, hit like and let me know. All right, folks, have a great one.